Welcome to the Go Pitch Win podcast, the show where entrepreneurs pitch their best business ideas to our industry leaders. Each week, one will move forward towards the grand prize, $10,000. One winner. So get ready. And now, here's your host, Greg Mercer.
Welcome to this week's episode of Go Pitch Win. This week, we're joined by guest judge Nick Loper.
Previously on Go Pitch Win.
If there was like a website or an app or something that would connect you with project-specific work relevant to your degree that you could complete and get paid for, is that something that you would be interested in? And the results were overwhelmingly positive.
What you do is you take a bottle, fill the bottle with water, you insert this thing, and then you basically put some seeds in and you can grow a garden. After a month or two, you'll have something that looks a bit like this.
Which business will move forward? Find out today.
All right, Nick Loper. So we just heard from two different business owners. Or we heard from Ben and Jared at Talent Cloud. We heard from Nate Littlewood from Urban Leaf. To start off, give me your overall impressions of the guys and the business idea at Talent Cloud.
So Talent Cloud is they're targeting university students and companies who eventually want to hire them, either for short-term projects or for like, hey, we need an entry-level hire for whatever position we have open. Huge market to tackle. They threw out some number. It was like in the billions of dollars, like was the addressable market based on these companies spending $4,000 on average per hire in recruiting costs, right? So we're going after this big market. It's an expensive problem for companies to solve, especially right now with unemployment as low as it is, right? The challenge that they have is that a two-sided marketplace is going to be notoriously hard to build because of this kind of like trying to build a critical mass on both sides that makes it valuable for both the companies and the students. So that's kind of the hurdle that they've got to overcome. And so trying to figure out how could they get to real revenue before that 5-year vision is like complete of having, we got this massive database of students and this massive database of companies. Like, it starts with one customer.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, and you're totally right. That's a long road ahead of them, right, to be able to get to what they perceive as kind of like the end goal. I think it also lacks a little bit of like a clear value prop to businesses. Like, I'm not sure, I like hiring locally, right? I think it's like good for the community. Like, I believe in that. But like, even me, someone who like is a fan of that kind of thing, if I was approached by that particular business, these students with their projects, it's like, well, I don't know if there's really that, like strong of a value prop.
You think
I'd
it's more of
probably
like
just
a
end
charity
up kind of
case?
hiring someone, off whatever Upwork if I was looking for the project, or I would probably default to like more traditional means of finding people to hire. All that being said, though, Ben and Jared seemed very like energetic guys. I could tell that they were hungry and they wanted to make something work. So, and they're totally right that the job search and job hiring market is a very big market. It's a pain point that a lot of people have, and they're either looking for jobs or looking for employees. Like right now at Jungle Scout, we're looking for a bunch of employees, and it's very time consuming. So that is like, there are pains to be solved there, but I think they need to rethink kind of their business plan or how they're going to get there, especially with very limited funding.
Yeah, that's one, you could foresee it being seasonal too, as we saw in the last recession, where it's like, well, if hiring dries up like it has in the past, and all of a sudden, we're going to cut our, annual subscription to this company. So there's, I don't know, I think it's a cool, it is a pain point for companies, but it's like, I don't know if it's a big vision to try and tackle.
What advice would you have for Ben and Jared as far as next steps to increase their chance of making this a successful business?
I'll give the example of like there was a guy in a mastermind group of mine who was in I think he was in might have been in pharmaceutical sales, and had been in it for years and years, built up a pretty good network in that. And his idea for his side hustle was to build like this this big marketplace, right? Of, finding, all these companies that need to hire reps. Hey, we can never find good reps. And then build this other side. There was all these, sales reps or people who wanted to break into the industry maybe. And on the flip side, the light bulb went off for him when his company was like, we'll pay you $1,000 or $2,000 like finder's fee if you can refer us a good candidate. And so immediately he had like, okay, customer number one, now I just have to go and find somebody who would be good for this role. And so that's probably the route you're gonna have to take like in the early days is, find those companies that have open positions to fill. They're spending money on recruiting because they probably have an HR department. They probably have, in-house hiring systems and stuff. It's like, if you can, almost be the recruiter, kind of, it's very, do things that don't scale, but that might be how you have to go and kind of prove the concept.
Yeah, I love the idea of, like having to kind of start small or prove the concept. I kind of, said in the show with them as far as just hacking together like the very minimal platform to make this work or whatever else. But then I guess I think at that point, or like you mentioned it, once you get to the point where you're just matching candidates for companies that are trying to hire, at that point you're just a headhunter, right? And then it's like, I'm not quite sure what the clear value prop is with that one either.
But I think the headhunter thing could eventually turn into that marketplace, especially if you build the database of students. Oh, that's a tough one too, because it's like, well, once I find a job, it's like, I'm good,
Right.
Scratch that one off the Excel list.
Yeah, but I do love the idea of just like starting out with something, just hustling just to make it work, start earning a little bit of revenue, reinvest that back into your business, right? So I totally agree that I would start small with something like that, because even $10,000, if they were to win this, it doesn't go very far as building the platform that they want. And, like building the technology is just the start. What would even be more expensive is like reaching that critical mass, like you said, to have enough supply and demand on there to really make it a thriving marketplace.
Yeah. And you don't want to spend all this time and money, worrying about the tech if you don't have, the students or the companies on board with it. And maybe the value prop for students is easy. Like, yeah, I need a job, or I need experience. It's like, it's less clear for the companies. And you kind of alluded to it. It's like, when I need something done, like I need it done quickly, right? So I can find somebody fast. I don't want to mess around with like this kid's in class half the week and I don't have to, mess around with that. Or it's like, I want the best talent that's out there. Like, I don't want to necessarily take a chance on somebody who's brand new.
The other contestant that Nick Loper and myself judged was Nate Littlewood from Urban Leaf. Nick, what are your first impressions of Urban Leaf?
So Urban Leaf is a kind of like hydroponic micro garden. They call it the world's smallest garden. And it's a little plastic tube with soil and seeds that you stick on top of an empty wine bottle that you filled with water. And it grows a basil plant, or it grows a mint plant or something. Like, it grows herbs, basically. That company, they've got a lot of good things going for. First of all, they raised 40 grand on Kickstarter. So they've kind of proven like the people are into this product. They've proven they're able to drive profitable ad traffic. They mentioned, hey, we can trade $5 for 15 on Amazon, which is like fantastic. We were getting customers for $3 a piece on Facebook, which is fantastic. And like you mentioned during the call, like their per unit economics are outstanding, right? They say, hey, we're $3 into this kit in terms of our cost, and we can turn around and sell it for a little over 20. So all that stuff is good. I really like how they're kind of targeting like a growing trend, right? In home gardening, in, organic food, like all that, like a rising tide kind of lifts all boats in those fields. What I didn't necessarily love was like, okay, we're going to spend some time on these like macro global climate change pictures, but it's like, how many calories are you really going to replace with a basil plant? And to Nate's credit, hey, look, we're not out, to solve world hunger or whatever with this one product. It's a gateway drug. It's a low price point thing, and then eventually we can kind of build out our product portfolio to eventually, support bigger plants and replace more of your grocery shopping with homegrown products. I didn't, and you asked kind of the clarifying question on the marketplace. I'm still not sure what he was talking about with that, if that was an affiliate play for other products in the space, like higher priced products that they weren't going to develop in-house, or what was going on there. But from what they have so far, it seems like they're doing really well. And it's just like, okay, what could we add in the product portfolio to, once people are in the door, like, okay, how else can Urban Leaf serve them?
Yeah, when he was given the presentation, like you said, about solving kind of like the world hunger type problems, and I didn't really know what the product was yet. I was like, wow, what is this guy like going after? These are like big dreams. And then it's like you said, a little device to stick in the top of a wine bottle to grow like a little herb plant, which is fine, but there's just kind of two different things. This device isn't even growing real food, at least not the current one. Maybe that's like down the road. So it's really like a gift product, right? This isn't the current one. I guess the vision of the company is different, but right now this is just like a cool novelty item that like you'd buy as a gift. I could see this thing just killing it during Q4, around Christmas time. Probably if you were to work out the paid ads to like the right demographics, they'd be interested in buying this thing, giving it a gift, or just fun to stick in the corner or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if I was him, I'd probably just kind of like reshape the messaging just to that. Hey, the unit economics of this product are awesome. I'm making this thing for $3. I'm selling it for 25. It's, I'm sure there's like very low number of returns because it's a really simple product. I'd just be focusing around how like strong of a business product it is. On top of that, if they were awarded these patents, which I don't have a ton of experience in patents, but I do know that they're relatively hard to get. If they do get a patent for this product on top of that, then all of a sudden you have this very defensible product that's very inexpensive to make, a great gift item that he's already shown that there is demand for. So all those things are pretty cool.
Their Kickstarter video is like really well polished. So they've done a good job on kind of like the branding marketing side.
Yeah, Nate just seems like a sharp guy with just all around like good business acumen as well, right? He didn't get into too much about his prior experience before Urban Leaf, but it was clear that he's done his homework or has some like good experience in kind of like a relevant business type industry before, which I liked. I can see him in the future leading a team or a company that would go on to be successful.
Yeah, it's a product you can see with kind of brick and mortar distribution. I could see it, in some of these like boutique shops. I could see it even like in Whole Foods or something. But building the capital to reinvest in the PR and the distribution team and kind of like the outreach needed to get all that stuff done, and then maybe adding more products to the portfolio to serve customers as they get more interested in gardening. Because you want to keep those people in house.
Like you said, I think that's the biggest problem they're running into right now, and I can see where that's so. It just takes a lot of money to scale up these businesses, right? You need to pay for inventory. You need to pay for customer acquisition, which I'm sure for that product is more expensive than the physical products themselves. So he definitely has a lot of work ahead of him, especially to play out this kind of like full mission that they have. I don't know if I would agree with Nate that like the marketplace should be the final play. Like I don't think there's anything wrong just by building this successful brand and e-commerce company like around these products, right? I don't know if I think, in my opinion, it seems like it'd be difficult to then transition that into like a specialized marketplace for kind of like urban farming. But I don't know. It's also kind of interesting that both of the contestants were both essentially pitching marketplaces to us, right? Nate's was at least he has a way of figured out to start building an audience and fund what down the road be a marketplace. But that's kind of interesting that both of the entrepreneurs, they had their hearts set on marketplaces.
Yeah, I don't love the marketplace. I mean, from what he was describing, maybe it was just like a terminology thing. It was like, well, you're talking about like creating content for, what type of, urban gardening hydroponic setup would be best for me. What kind of thing can I hang over a door? What kind of thing can I set up on my patio? Right? Like you could create content around that without,
just
building
put it on your website.
Yeah. It's like I don't know, and then build a product around that, or use the technology that you have and leverage the plant scientist that you have as a co-founder to create those products. since they obviously know what they're doing, bringing something to market and having great margin on it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until you just said that, but I do like the founding team now that I think about it. Like one side is the plant scientist, PhD guy, right? So I'm sure he probably has a lot of good ideas about what plants could thrive in that particular environment. It's pretty obvious that like Nate's, the business guy in the business relationship. So that works out well. I see a lot of founding groups have skill sets that kind of like mimic each other instead of complement each other. Whereas in this particular business, I think they've kind of made the right move that, hey, one person's real smart on the horticulture side. The other guy's a business guy. That seems like a good match for this particular business.
Yeah, I'd like to see him go down the road of, like you're kind of talking about bigger plants, something that, I could destroy that basil plant like in one afternoon with one braise salad. So it's like, well, what else can we, and then it took me a month to grow that. So it's like, yeah, he's not going to replace your trips to the grocery store, but maybe down the road they can expand their offering a little bit.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see if they're able to expand into like a successful product that legitimately like grows food, because kind of as we mentioned earlier, right now it is very much like a novelty item, right? Like if you spend a month to grow that basil plant, maybe you cut off a few leaves just for fun so you can say you ate it, but you're probably gonna be like too attached to it. But I don't know, that that doesn't necessarily have to be the value prop.
Kids who grow their own food like are all about it. It's like, well, crap, maybe we should try that in our house. So there's tackling that growing pun not intended, the growing trend of growing your own food. So I think that's kind of a cool place to be.
Yeah, I think if I was Nate and I was at Urban Leaf, that's where I would target a lot of my marketing, would be to people. I can see this doing really well, with parents that want to educate their kids, or like it's almost like a little science experiment for kids, right? You can see what a plant looks like, see what the roots look like. You can add some greenery to your home. I think I would like kind of shift my marketing materials towards that it's like just this cool novelty thing that you can see the roots and everything else, as opposed to, a plant that you're going to eat. Nick, at the end of each round, we need to choose one winner to move on to the final round. So we have Ben and Jared at Talent Cloud. We've talked about them, discussed the good things about their business as well as the struggles or the challenges that they'll see ahead. On the other end, we have Nate at Urban Leaf, who's growing the world's smallest garden, but only one of them can move on.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who are you voting for, Nick?
I think the vote has to go to Urban Leaf. They're just way more established. They're running, maybe not at a profitable level, from the onset of the company, but profitable on a per sale basis. And, they just have a little bit more traction at this point. 5 to 10 years down the road, Talent Cloud could be huge. And they could be blowing everybody out of the water. But for the time being, I think Urban Leaf has a clearer picture of what they want to do with the 10 grand and have it make an immediate impact on their business.
I agree. I think if the 10 grand went to Ben and Jared, they don't have a very clear plan of, or what I believe is a very solid plan of how they're really going to turn that money into what would feature, later on become a successful business. Whereas Nate at Urban Leaf, he has, he's already proven this concept. He's already sold, he said $80,000 worth of these things, which I guess is like 4,000 units, which is solid. He has a factory already to make these. At this point, he's just looking for capital to scale up. So I agree with you, Nick. My vote is for Nate to move on to the final round to potentially win the $10,000.
I'm glad we're not split. What would happen if we were?
We would have to bring in an unbiased third party. Excellent. Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you spending a few hours of your day listening to the contestants pitch their business ideas to us. I'm glad we agreed on who's going to move on to the final round. Thank you again for coming on.
You bet. This was a blast. This definitely got kind of my creative gears turning on, what would I do to grow this company? So very cool stuff. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Go Pitch Win podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear the next great business idea, then make sure to subscribe and join us in the next episode.